We paid it off within 2 years because we drove callbacks down. We maximized each ticket, and we always had more calls than we could humanly do. And now we had a way to get more people on the road, taking these young, willing apprentice people with no skills and getting them to be willing techs with great skills.
Welcome to the Small Business Safari, where I help guide you to avoid those traps, pitfalls, and dangers that lurk when navigating the wild world of small business ownership. I'll share those gold nuggets of information and invite guests to help accelerate your ascent to that mountaintop of success. It's a jungle out there, and I want to help you traverse through the levels of owning your own business that can get you bogged down and distract you from hitting your own personal and professional goals. So strap in, adventure team, and let's take a ride through the safari and get you to the mountaintop. Alan, we're ready for another episode. Are we ready to rock and roll? Are you ready to light it on fire?
If I was a dog, I'd be wagging my tail.
Attaboy, I like that. Let's wag some tails today, but I'm feeling the power. I'm feeling the energy. I'm feeling the heat of what's about to happen today.
Are you doing your dad joke?
I am doing my lead in, man. We've got a home services legend, Levy, today with us, and he is going to talk about what he did in his business and what he grew and how he's helped so many people grow their businesses through discipline. But his first business was in the business of making heat, baby.
Really?
It was.
What kind of heat?
I don't know. Let's find out, shall we?
Let's.
Al, thanks.
I'm going to take this back to be a little cleaner. Yes, it was heating people's homes is what I was heating. And
did you realize that Chris was already going in the gutter with that, Al? I mean,
I'm really good at stepping in and helping us get back on the curb.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
He's going to keep you on the straight and narrow. He's your accountability partner.
I'm an accountability coach. Yeah.
Oh boy. All right, Al, shoulder up because it's going to be a long episode.
Yeah. Al, lift with your legs, not with your back.
Brother, I'm here. No problem. Yeah. So I was born literally into a family heat business that was fuel oil heating, and for around the country, if you don't know, in the Northeast, used to heat with fuel oil instead of what basically is like propane for heating homes. And I showed up, my two older brothers, and we were the third generation. We started out of my grandfather's gas station, 1936. And when my brothers and I arrived, ultimately we moved into gas heating, plumbing, air conditioning, and finally electrical. So plumbing, heating, cooling, electrical and here's the great news. My nephew is the fourth generation. He's there with my middle brother today.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
What year did you guys go heating, air, electrical, plumbing? Decade?
Yeah. So that was really about in the early to mid 90s. And the reason why is I had joined the forerunner of Nexstar, which was C2000 at the time, met a lot of great people. And what I realized at the time was that my really best competition was starting to go into different trades. And what I said to my two older brothers and my dad, I said, if we don't do these trades, we're going to basically put our competition in our basement. So we have to start doing this. The good news for us is we had mastered our first trade, and the mastering of it was operating manuals that defined how we did stuff objectively in writing. And then we built a corresponding training center and training curriculum, became better trainers ourselves, so that we were able to take willing apprentices with no skills to willing techs with great skills. And that's why, in this competitive world, it was what allowed us to stand out with our 2,000 competitors on any given day.
So when you guys were in this phase, let's just hold on for a minute, everybody. 1990, there was no such thing as
internet.
There was no such thing as laptops, phones. I mean,
Novocaine?
bag phones at best. I mean,
COVID. There was no COVID.
And no COVID. I mean, you think about how you were able to do that, and you guys were doing that off a pretty large footprint in the early 90s.
We were already 17 million in sales, so we were not a small company. We were 70 people. We were a New York City union shop. And by the way, the union provided me nothing in the way of talent. They just, whoever came in had to join the union. So it was really up to us to train these people.
So I've already got one person who's been on the podcast that we've had to put in the witness protection program. So it sounds like we're going back in again, because if we keep saying
I actually became pretty good working with it. Originally, that was, if you have more of the story, is when I stepped into the business, it was a lot of headbutting between us and the union.
Right.
And as the last brother in, kid, so to speak, I went to the union guys and said, listen, we are wrestling towards a cliff. And I got to tell you, I'm willing to go over the cliff. Are you? Because if you don't want to go over the cliff, let's figure out how we make this work together. And to their credit, they said, yeah, let's do that. And that's what really changed the momentum. Because I was born into a system where they made more money the longer they stayed, yet their talents were awful. And so I changed it to you move up that ladder based on the talents and things you can demonstrate and do. That's how you make more money.
Oh, a merit-based
Whoa,
system. That's a
whoa, there's
novel idea.
I know
gold
that,
nugget, everybody. How about paying on meritocracy as opposed to longevity?
How long you're
yeah,
sitting on your
yeah.
butt in the chair. Yeah,
I know it's a
exactly.
brand new idea. I hope all of you were strapped in and not driving because I'm sure that must have took you off the road.
That one's like, wow, never thought about that. Paying for
Never thought
performance.
about that.
Yeah, I think you think back on how hard it was even then to do what you did. I mean, so paper-based, not knowing where everybody was. There was no such thing as a Nextel even, which is
Those were the coolest when they first came out.
Man, when
weren't
those
they?
Yeah,
first
Didn't
came
you
out.
they
feel
really,
so cool putting that giant thing on your
Oh,
head?
I could
yeah.
top. I have a story topper to that actually, and part of the good news is my dad, to his credit, my dad, and my uncle actually founded. They were the second generation in the company, but my dad was always a big believer in technology. And so, what his technology was, he put in two-way radios in the trucks when all of his other people out there, competition, were finding payphones when you could find payphones, and they actually used to tease him. What's the matter? You don't have a quarter for a phone booth or something? But he knew always investing money back into the business. We computerized way before anybody computerized in our business. And so we were always on that cutting edge in technology. And to this day, my brother and my nephew, they are always, looking for what's new, what makes us more of a niche and less of a commodity, because that was really our challenge from day one.
Yeah, two other great gold nuggets, right? Being on the cutting edge of technology. You don't have to be the bleeding edge because that's going to cost you a lot, especially in home
Yeah. Yeah.
services. But being on the cutting edge and staying on top of it. In fact, I'm sending my general manager this year to Fast Remodeler, which is the technology summit for remodeling guys, because I'm going to go to the NARI conference this year instead. But you gotta stay there and do that if you want to stay relevant and stay again back to a niche and not a commodity, because
Yeah.
customer service is born out of that technology.
I love, for those who can't see my phone or can't see my phone, I a lot of my vendors in my home are my customers. They're in my online programs here in Arizona, and they're on Service Titan. And I get a text telling me how soon my tech is going to be here, and I can track it like an Uber. It's amazing to me. I mean, just what you can do now. There is a limit, and hopefully, you guys out there hear this the right way. I think AI is coming, and I think it's already here. But if you think you can just turn your company over to AI and it's all going to be right and people love the whole thing, that's like when you call up and I'll speak to AI or whatever automated thing it is for one or two questions. But by the sixth time they say to me, I don't understand you, representative, representative.
Right? Isn't that in fact, we were
I think
just
he just answered his customer service pet peeve.
yeah. So in my
Yes.
my accountability group that I meet with monthly, the CEO group facilitated by Hanks, we actually got into that conversation again. Was a lady tried to use an HVAC company here in Atlanta that
Yeah.
clearly had an AI front end, and she said, and she's the nicest lady, but she kept going. I just started going, representative, representative, representative. I'm like, well, you beat me, because if I had the phone back in the day, I'd be beating that one and that zero so hard. I mean, I'm
I know.
surprised my phone didn't fall to pieces. But I agree, Al. You've actually hit it on the head, and that's what we surmised here. AI is coming back to bleeding edge. You want to
Yes,
be
and
on
that's great.
cutting
I love
edge.
that. That's what made me think about it. The way that you called it bleeding edge, that is a very appropriate, and the word could not be better, bleeding. We were not the first, but we were right near the first when we changed the type of heating systems we had. We tested them in our house, not your house. That's the beauty of having a training center, getting really familiar with it.
Right.
And the way that we got our team to actually buy into it is that they could get this product and take it back home and try it out. And if they liked it, they could keep it at a, severe discount. Well, if techs touch it, let alone put it in their own homes, and they will, you don't have to teach them to sell. you have to teach them to shut up because they love it so much. It's
That's a
so
great point too. God, man, he's killing gold nuggets because you give your employees the opportunity to sample your service and your product. Who becomes your best proponent? Because I got 15 technicians running around here in Atlanta and 4 more up in Athens, Georgia, and they have to be the face of my company because I'm not there. But just
yeah.
think about if you could give them the service or product in their own home and then have them go out there and champion it, they would every day.
Brilliant.
It is good. It is good. I'm actually taking that one, filing that one away.
It really makes a world of difference. And again, this part, Mark, it really was originally get them trained here rather than in a customer's basement. We used to have we were embarrassed to say it out loud. We used to call it OTJT, which stands for on the job training.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's the only training most owners do, including us for a very long time. And so we realized how hit and miss it was. And ultimately, also really not fair because what does it mean? I'm coming to your home to learn how to do my job.
Right. Exactly right.
That's really a bad thing. So we actually built it into the sales and marketing advantage, the 10 reasons to choose us. And that was one of them.
Go, Alan. You wanted to say something?
Yeah,
Jump in.
well, and I just want to take the opportunity because we don't have the opportunity to ask this question for very many of our guests. I have so many friends, Al, who have a business and they are just beside themselves because their kids don't want to be in the business. And so they're faced with either someday shutting it down or hopefully selling it. You've got 4 generations in your business. What's the secret sauce to that? Just child labor, when they're 5 and they don't know any better?
How'd you know that I was 8 years old and I was cleaning fittings and toilets and being a helper by the time I was 10?
I can just see it. Hey, Dad, I think I want to be an accountant. Woof. Ow, Dad, that hurt. Get back over there. Tighten that wrench.
It is my favorite thing that I can share in the 23 years now that I've done this is when I encounter family businesses and how it progresses through that. I base it on myself, and which was my father believed that I should never ask anybody to do anything that I had not done myself. And when I was young, I hated that idea. But when I got a little bit older, I go, oh, that's why he said that. Yeah. And so basically what I could say to you, and I did all of the recruiting and hiring, even though our company was big at the time, I felt it was so important, the recruiting, hiring, orienting, training place to get you into the program was that if I am not going up on the roof in the dead of winter, you don't have to go. But if I'm going up, you're following me, or this is not the place you should be.
Do you have what it takes to start your own business? Are you tired of the 9-to-5 corporate job and ready to make that leap into entrepreneurship? Then you need to check out From the Zoo to the Wild, the new book by successful entrepreneur Chris LaLamia. This book is a unique perspective on the journey into the wild world of home services and delivering excellence in service while working in customers' homes. LaLamia shares his path to success in this industry, including proven customer relationship strategies, award-winning customer experience processes, and a unique approach to training a team of service technicians to perform at the highest levels. Whether you're a small business trying to scale or a franchise operation, From the Zoo to the Wild will give you the mindset, habits, leadership style, and customer-oriented processes to succeed as a small business owner in the home services space. So if you're ready to take control of your future, get your copy of From the Zoo to the Wild today, available on Amazon. So I started my business after being in the corporate world for a number of years, and what I did was I put myself in my own truck, hired a guy and put him in the truck to learn the handyman trade. And so my training, it always starts with me at the culture training now, where I don't do the rest of it. I think we do a good job, almost better than average job. But the first thing I say is, you're never going to be asked to do anything that I didn't do. I said, that being said, I've done some crazy shit. I said, so hang on.
Well, I also try to very carefully as I progressed along is they're never going to be my clone. So all of you listening out there, if you think your clone is showing up, good luck. And even if that was somebody that you found is really good, try duplicating it. I've always used the expression that's like trying to catch lightning in a bottle over and over and over again. You might get lucky once if you don't get electrocuted. But the point of it is it's impossible to repeat. So it's not scalable. And all of what we were trying to do was control the daily chaos, the stress, because we were still making a ton of money with all the mistakes, everything that was missing, because the basic family dynamic was work hard and make the results come out the way you want them to be. So I don't know if you guys have heard of Ellen Rohr.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
I've actually had her on the podcast.
yeah, so Ellen
Big
and
fan.
we met in C2000 all those years ago. And then we always kept in touch. We worked together as co-consultants. Then we actually owned a franchise together with one of my former customers, Zoom Drain. So yeah, we've obviously got all the circles together, but she was a really great mentor to me as I was a mentor to her because we were talking about stuff like I didn't grow up knowing what a budget was. We are exposing my so much from my like experienced old gangster kind of thing is back in the 90s, we bought a motor for 30 bucks. We paid you 30 bucks and we thought, well, if we sell it for 100, we got $40 of pure money. And so we didn't know what indirect costs were. And, I read her book, by the way, pretty much every year. And for nothing else, her book I'm speaking to is to this day is still a big, big seller. Where did the money go? Just for the glossary alone, because I would ask my accountant, I go, what does this phrase mean? And they'd give me another stupid accounting term. And so she defined these things in plain English. And she really broke it down slowly. So for those listening, ROAR is spelled ROHR. And now I'm jumping ahead because you were asking about what book to recommend.
I know you're doing good though. Jump
Yeah.
ahead, my friend.
I think there isn't anybody, even if you think you're good. Ellen Rohr's Where Did the Money Go is the first book to read, and her second book is How Much Should I Charge? And those are two really seminal books that put you on a better path and what I call financial power.
And talking about that podcast that we had, you can go back and check it out. You can Google it, Ellen ROHR on the Small Business Safari. Man, she just brings the power and the energy, and she is such a dynamo. I mean, you can't help but feel better when you're done talking with her, right? Wasn't that fun?
Yeah, absolutely.
She is electric, and yeah, there's no. I'm very passionate about what I do, but she's a person on fire.
Yeah. No, that's great. But you said something that's very interesting is that, you said something, I was a mentor to her, but she was also a mentor to me.
Yeah.
The other line is, iron sharpens iron. Talk a little bit about how as you guys started to talk, how did you guys elevate each other? Because I think that's
as
one
we were
big.
working together and alone, even we actually used to get together for a yearly conference when we weren't working together. And her sister, Gail. And so it's funny because my name is Alan, by the way, Alan. And
The correct way.
Yes, thank you. Hoping that was the case.
Thank you, Alan.
Yeah,
Right.
thank you, Alan. So we used to call it the AGE conference, AGE, and we would meet every year and look at each other's business. Because the problem I had learned a long time ago is when you're in your business, you can't see because the glasses are rose-colored. But anytime you ever go visit, and we used to go visit shops all the time, it's magical how great you can see all the mistakes, anything that's really good. And that's what I did for Ellen, and that's what she did for me. And Gail was able to do it for both of us. So, because you did all the back end bookkeeping.
It's also being vulnerable and showing things. I'm in a monthly accountability group. Many people would know the term Vistage. This is not one, but it's a guy who is Vistage trained here in Atlanta. It's been amazing. But that is one area where getting a deep dive in the financials, still haven't done that in 7 years. But I will tell you that she has to do it here because the National Association of the Remodeling Industry, we have a local chapter here, and guy asked me, hey, come look at the books. He goes, hey, what do you think? I said, well, I think they suck. He goes, hey, do you think you can help me? I'm like, well, I can. But I mean, I just don't know if I want to get involved in the committees and all that stuff. Because just help me. I'm like, so I start helping him. We start working on it. He goes, hey, do you want to chair the finance committee? I'm like, all right.
That's how they suck you.
And now I'm the flipping president.
It's step by step.
He was so good. Mark Gailey was so good at this. I will tell you this. So I went, yeah, these suck. And then I fixed them. And then I went back and looked at my own books and I went, man, mine suck.
It's almost impossible to not just get numb to your own environment. I remember an example of just going up the steps of one of my stores, and there was this giant weed that obviously had been growing for months. And I'd walk through those same steps, and I'm like, I mean, I can't even see the weed on my front porch. What's going on in my business? I mean, the thing had been growing, and it's, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just, yeah, you need somebody else. You need that second set of eyes.
I was very lucky. I had really great industry friends like Ellen Rohr, who would tell me what I needed to hear, whether I wanted to hear it or not. And the great Dan Holohan, who is also the connection between myself and Ellen, who is a great industry writer, helped us with the manuals. We hired him in to do it because I had tried for, I don't know, for years to write it. And every time I wrote these manuals, they came out like a law book, Article 1-6.35.
Yeah,
And
right.
no one was going to follow that. And then, so he also knew me very well. And when we finally knew it, this is what we had to do because I had read The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And that really changed my life. And Ellen Rohr and Dan Holohan said, you have to stop what you're doing and read this book. And for the first time in my life, I knew why things didn't work and I knew what I needed to do, but it didn't really give me the how. But you know what? I'm really good at how. And between myself and my brothers and the money we spent about $150,000 in the original manuals, and they're a fraction of what I have today. But we paid it off within 2 years because we drove callbacks down. We maximized each ticket, and we always had more calls than we could humanly do. And now we had a way to get more people on the road, taking these young, willing apprentice people with no skills to getting them to be willing techs with great skills. By the way, I was a hostage to my staff, which I think is bad enough. And I told my brothers and my dad, that's why they allowed me to go out and do the things I did. But I actually came to work with a customer that Ellen called him up one day and said, what time do you want us there? And usually, contractors will say, if you let them, they'll say 5 a.m. because they started early. And I go, I'm in Arizona on Pacific time and you're in the East Coast. I'm not waking up at 1 a.m. to come to your place. So this guy says to him, he says to Ellen, 2 o'clock. And she goes, I'm sorry, what time did you say? He goes, oh, I don't come into this office till 2 o'clock because I hate all my employees.
True words have not been spoken, my friends. I mean, I love my team. I built a
I
great
know.
culture, but
Yeah.
that line speaks so volumes.
Here's the happy ending to that story. So Ken to do all the work that we did at the end, not even in the transition when things began to run smoothly, because he realized, the famous expression attributed to Confucius, when you point a finger, four is still facing you. As I had to take the lumps because I was very busy early on blaming everybody except myself. So he did take that responsibility on. And here's the truism today. He wakes up excited to go see his staff, and his one of his sole focuses is making their lives better. Think about how that 180 went.
Hmm.
Wow. Man, that had been a big change because he has to see the value in it. And also, he also had to be ready to accept it. One of the things you talk about with coaching, and I know we're going to get into what Al does, is that you got to be willing to be ready. And we had a great coach consultant on. So the third question is, do I think he's ready? Do I
Yeah.
think whatever I'm going to do is going to 10x him or 1x him or whatever it was? But I think you got to be self-aware, and if you're not, is somebody going to shoot you with it? And
I've had
I
a lot of guys who've worked, with me, usually when I was doing one-to-one consulting, which I don't do anymore, but it used to be 2 to 3 years for people that wanted to run the whole gamut, all seven powers, planning, operation, staffing, sales coaching, marketing, finance. Ellen handled two, the financial and the sales coaching. I did the other five with them, but they would get through, things would finally, go really well. Money was coming in, debt was going down, they were growing, coming to work was much more fun. And invariably, like a year in or so, they would say to me, oh, I wish I had called you 5 years ago. And I go, you weren't ready. It's the oldest one is the teacher appears when the student is ready. And I was the same way. When I was young, like most young people, I knew everything.
I wish some people say that, hey, if you could go back to your 17-year-old self and tell him something, I'm like, I could, but that motherfucker wasn't going to listen to a word I had to say. I can
Nope.
promise you.
Yeah,
Because I knew everything at 17, Al.
I
Everything.
know, and that's the coupled with that, I was not as bad as most kids, but it's amazing how much smarter my dad got when I graduated college.
Yeah, amen. That's a Mark Twain. I know it's originated with him, or at least
It's so on spot on.
it is too, because we all have that, and a lot of adolescents, especially men, listening to this, we all have to do that. It's part of our journey to becoming entrepreneurial, but not really entrepreneurial, but just independent. We all have to, at some point, we have to reject our parents. We have to be able to say, I'm not going to stay with you. I got to launch. And so the way we do it, and for many of us, very not gracefully, I thought I was pretty good. I wasn't as bad as it looked, but I definitely can tell you a story that in the backyard, there was a sledgehammer thrown and there was a compressor flipped. I can't tell you by who and by which, but I will tell you there were two guys involved.
At least there wasn't any hatchet throwing before it became popular. So good.
Right. But that was me and my dad working together.
Wow.
Yeah. And that gets all the way back to the story that I wanted to finish up on is when you talked about the next generation, I was very happy. First of all, I had to get the family who was there to work together. So what was one of the keys? Those keys that I learned at our company is my two older brothers and I spent most of our times in the 20s micromanaging each other or duplicating what each other was doing because we had no idea. We didn't communicate. We didn't have any meeting. We didn't have anything. And so I have to watch the time for you guys, but can I tell a quick story where
you got to tell this one because I love this, especially a three brothers story.
So my brother Marty would never worked in the field, although he went to school with me, to tech school, and I couldn't understand why he wasn't getting it because I was getting it. And then when a year or two later I was in somebody's basement at 2 a.m. and he was home sleeping, I realized he was still the smarter brother. But anyway, so he's first in the morning at like 6 a.m. He gets a phone call from an irate customer. Somebody was here last night and now I have no heat. And I come walking in at 6:30, heading to the service department to get things straightened out for the day. And he starts, I already see that he's yelling at the service manager, who is now on the roof ready to jump. And now my first task of the day is to gently walk him off the roof. And then I get a phone call when I'm sitting at the dispatch desk from one of our suppliers. And I understand, my dad raised my brothers and I as young teenagers that our suppliers get paid before you do. Because push comes to shove, they'll take care of you. Which, by the way, was brilliant. It was told to us when we were very young. When Sandy hit Long Island, which is where our business was, guess who got taken care of? Us. To the maximum degree, including
I love this story.
We lost 20 trucks and the leasing company came through like champs, just to name one. Anyway, so I apologize. I hang up the phone and I go tearing across to the office to rip into the accounts payable person. And finally, Marty and I are right in between the two offices. And I said to him, if you don't like the way the service is being handled, you tell me and I'll fix it. And he goes, well, if you don't like the way the bills are being paid, you tell me and I'll get it fixed. And then we both looked at each other and I go, this is really good. We ought to write a chart up or something. And that was the birth of the box org chart. We finally
have an org chart
it takes to fix, to run the business. And that's where everything goes in a better direction. And the point of this is, for us, we had so many trucks, it was a big deal. The insurance. So Marty would get 3 bids, Richie would get 3 bids, Al would get 3 bids. And once we realized, no, wait, it goes in your box, Marty. You go get 3 bids and then come and give a proposal, explain it to us, and then we'll vote on which way we go. What a dramatic reduce in not only time, but tension. There was so much tension because we're all running around with our heads chopped off.
How fun to watch that go down. I just, you hit on one thing, and I don't think I'm going to get him on the podcast, but I really wanted to. But he's retired, and I think his appetite of coming in here and drinking with us to talk about it is gone. But we had a local supplier. That's the people I buy all my windows and doors and decking packages from. During in 2008, when I started in 2008, they had been going on for 20 years.
Yeah.
One of the things they did, and they did it right, was they always paid their vendors. And a lot of times you have a vendor angst relationship, right? I mean, so many
Yeah. You
companies
got
do.
to, if I don't, work them over, they're going to take advantage of me, and we finally woke up one day, and that was because of I've been to good training. Is I don't make That's not how I make my money holding the vendor down. I actually like and prefer a primary vendor that handles it. One
So,
source of accountability,
so the
maybe
company he
two.
was with, there was two of them in the area at the time, and the company he was with paid everybody. And when they had to close down, they made sure to pay everybody off as they went bankrupt.
Hmm.
And
Wow.
the other
Wow.
guy left everybody else holding the bag. So now fast forward to 2010, which it sounds like forever, 2 years, but really is not,
No.
right?
But those were rough years.
They were. Trust me, brother.
Yeah, I don't remember them.
I yeah, Alan. Same again. That's how he lost his business was 2008. There's no way you can get out of that one. But when they got ramped back up, you know which vendors extended credit. You know which vendors made sure that they could get people in business.
Yeah.
Larry and his team.
What comes around goes
And
around.
the other guy actually ran tail and got completely out of the business 100%.
Good.
Yeah,
So,
right? It just
so
shows you.
it does show you, and I'm going to share with you because the part about being a know-it-all teenager. I wasn't a teenager at this point. I was 25, and I'm in the business, and I find out one of our competitors had a fire. So I come in to tell my dad, um, we should go around. We know where their trucks are, and we can, advertise to take this up. And he goes and reaches for the phone, and he picks up the phone, and he goes, "Sit down. You have something to learn." I'm going to put it on speaker. He calls the guy up. His name is Nate. He goes, "Nate, my son just told me about a fire. So I want you to know I'm going to service any of your customers. I will never sell any of them. I will only be talking about you. I'll do whatever you need in the way of help." And then he hangs up the phone. He looks at me. He goes, "You know what? The road has many bends." I go, "What does that mean?" He said, "How would you feel if you were in that position? Things happen. Just do the right thing." So anyway, Nate sells his business, not to us, to somebody else. He waits for the non-compete to finish. And he goes to every one of his big clients and goes, "The only person you should be dealing with is Irving."
Wow.
Wow. See what comes around goes around. And again,
Yes.
we talk about that's one of our core principles at the Trusted Toolbox is integrity. And people say, well, that's not really an integrity. I'm like, it is when you teach it like we do. And that's doing the right thing when nobody's watching.
Yes.
Sometimes it doesn't feel good to be at a customer's house at 2 a.m., Al, and the pipe doesn't come together. Or in our case, doing some carpentry work. Maybe that trimmed, I could have just caulked the hell out of it and walked away and done it the wrong way, and they'll never know. Doing the right thing when nobody's watching, that's the one that pays off. And I will tell you, it paid off for me, and I've used that story all the time with my guys.
I absolutely 100% agree. So if you're staying with this off the chart, bouncing around the wall thing here, is I've also talked to kids, and I always ask, the people who are there about, do you want me to talk to the next generation? I'll have a private conversation with them, and then if they're good with it, we'll get together. And so a great company in the Midwest who has absolutely exploded in a great way. I grew up, to start this story, it was 2004. He had a metal building he built on purpose so that his house was in the building of his office because he knew it was the only way he could see his kids. You with me so far?
Mm.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting on the couch waiting for him to finish up and with his kid. His kid's there at that point. One kid was maybe 10 at the time, the son. And as life will have it, work goes on. He and his wife call me up. He go, "We have a problem." I go, "What's the problem?" He goes, "My son doesn't want to go to college and we want him to have that experience." I go, "Well, my brother Richie didn't want to go to college either. My father insisted that he go at least 6 months to a year because he didn't want him ever to come back and go, 'You know what? I really should have gone to college to find out what that was like.'" That was the longest that he could hold. It was 6 months before Richie came back and said, okay. But Richie could never come back and go, listen, Richie was born with a wrench in his crib. He knew what he wanted to do.
Hmm.
He's 70 something years old and he's up in attics and people go, why? I said, because he loves it. And so they asked me, will he ever retire? I go, yeah, feet first, maybe.
Hmm.
That's about it. But the point of this thing is, I said to this kid, I said, your parents who are here want me to talk to you about this business. And they agreed to the following. You're going to start at the bottom, not at the top. You're going to do like what my dad told me when I came in. He said, I owe you an opportunity, not a guarantee. And you're going to work at the bottom. And don't come to me complaining about who you're working for, because they're totally empowered to be your boss. And if you can put up with that, and then you will earn your way up. You'll have everyone's respect, but that's the deal. Otherwise, go wherever you want. And
So,
they
Al,
did. By the way, the good story here, within 2 years, he was the best tech, their kid.
how about that? Al, I want to, we're coming towards the end. I want to
Yeah.
talk a little bit about, you don't do one-to-one coaching anymore, but you do help people. And we've talked a lot about nostalgia, but what's funny is that in the nostalgia, I still find these are the same problems that
Oh, same
people are
problem.
facing. You know, again, it's not any different. It's been the same problem. You had the same problem in the 90s we have today. You can't find good techs. You don't know how to get them going, all this stuff. Tell me what you're doing now. How are you giving back to the community?
So I do have a book, and the book that I wrote was purposely, I think, 120 pages because my editor, when I spoke to her, I said, I've been doing podcasts, writing for trade magazines for years. I've got tons of content. She goes, well, what do you need me for? I go, there's 1,000 of my kids sitting in the audience telling me to pick me, pick me. I said that it would look like a ransom note, not a book.
Hmm.
So this book is made to be read in 2 to 4 hours for any of you contractors out there. I'm dyslexic, so I can still read it. The point of it is to read it over and over again and use a yellow highlighter. It is inaudible because this voice is golden, obviously. So if you
Beautiful.
prefer to be
Golden
driving
throat.
around and hear it, yeah, it's on Audible, it's an ebook, the rest of it. That's the first way to start. It's really good. You'll get a great foundation, or what I call the platform, to take control of your business today, but scale it. And there are companies right now using all of these principles from 1 million to 250 million. And in this PE wave, I've had a ton of companies who have been bought out for PE money, for big money, generational money, and they're built on these platforms. So what I do today, there's 2 programs I have online called Signature Operating Manual System. And that is the org chart, famous org chart I described, but it's how do you cover those boxes with a manual that covers 80% of the time. I have that already for you, especially if you're in the contracting trade. And so that's really where you start to take control. The second program is called Signature Staffing, which is all about the 5 steps of staffing. Always recruiting, always hiring, always orienting, always training. And the last one we all miss, because we think they're on the team, is always retaining. 5th step.
Mm,
And if you do a great job in the first 4 and you offer what we did, because I had read a book about the employer of choice years ago, and I said to my brothers, if we can provide a career, not just a job, we win. And that is exactly what we set off to do. The kids, quote unquote, that I trained all those years ago, all made it to the very top of the org chart.
That's great. What a great testament. That's a lot of fun. Again, everybody, we're going to put this in the show notes, but Al, you want to give us a shout out on what those 2 books are? We can go look them up.
The 2 books that
you wrote.
Ellen's, or are you talking about? The one book I have is The 7 Power Contractor. It's
The
on
7
Amazon.
Power Contractor.
Yeah. And if you go to my website, the number 7powercontractor.com, go to the products page and you'll see that, the 2 programs I'm talking about. You can tour it. It's all there. And that's pretty good. But also I have a ton of blogs there on purpose. There's a ton of education there. And like you guys are saying, I know you would like it wrapped up in a prettier bow and you're thinking there's got to be something that's brand new, that's better. And it's not because of my ego or conceit. It's solid and it's proved, and it's proving now, right this minute.
Yeah, I
I'm
agree.
working with companies from Australia, New Zealand, Canada, United States, and UK because the programs are online.
Wow, that's amazing. No, that's good stuff, guys. I've been out to the website. I've checked it all out. That's why I was excited to get Al on the podcast, talk about all this stuff. And I mean, I love the stories and the history. And I mean, that's where I think it really comes in. You guys all know that I'm a big fan of history, not as big of a fan of World War II history as Alan, but we are still big fans of
We are of a
history.
certain age where that becomes interesting.
Yeah.
I like other history.
I like, yes.
Okay, going to move on now.
Yeah,
What?
Okay, let's move on.
All right. Hey, let's finish this thing up. Let's talk about it. I want to talk about the famous 4 questions.
Well, he's already
Okay.
answered too.
So I know we're down. So we already got the books, right? Go check out Ellen Ward's book.
Got the customer service.
Go check out the 7 Power Contractor. Again, another great book. And his customer service
Was the AI thing.
The AI where you can't escape the AI that you put in that you think can automate your business and you never have to have a human involved.
well. Good. Then we can get to my fun, most famous. What's the favorite feature of your home?
Well, I'm prejudiced, heating and cooling.
Because he's in Arizona.
What
gotta have-
Arizona, yeah.
What
You know, I
temperature
always
do you keep
liked
your
heating and cooling, to say the least. But cooling out here is not a nice thing. It's a life and death thing. And
I
the good
talked.
news is I've got 2 systems in here because one night one of them rolled over and there was only 4 years old, but stuff happens, right? And so we were able to trudge on to the other side of the house and stay cool for a whole night.
Power's expensive out there.
I came from New York where power wasn't expensive. It
It's
was
all relative.
stupid expensive.
Yeah.
Exactly right. That's I talk about this all the time. As a handyman and a remodeler, we don't have a need-based business. So when we're in somebody's house, you don't need to have that door changed out. You don't need to have your siding changed out. It's just why now. But when your air conditioning is out in Arizona in July, that's a need.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and if you're in Minnesota in the winter, heating is also not a nice thing. It's an
So
essential thing.
it's an essential thing. I mean, if you want to stay
Yeah,
alive,
the demand
you've got to have-
businesses and like Tommy, the garage door business that most people know, A1 Garage, is if the door is not going up or it's not coming down or it's halfway in the middle, that's a problem because you got a wedding to go to.
it still makes me laugh when he did. I got a chance to talk with Tommy as well, and I want to get him on the pod too. Al, maybe throw a little bone over there to him to get him on. But he said it's a need. We were talking offline.
Yeah, it's a need.
And I'm like, well, doesn't everybody know you can just pull the handle and pull the damn thing up?
Oh no, they don't. Not even close. Not even close.
They're trapped
And
in
if
their
they
house.
did, if they did, they probably would hatchet something on the door coming down. They didn't guide it down. So yeah, user error. Let's just call
Yeah.
it.
Oh my God, that's crazy. All right, Al, you've been around the trades, but I love a good DIY nightmare story. It's got to be you. I have plenty of them myself. I've done a lot of dumb shit in my life, but I want to hear a good DIY nightmare story.
Yeah, so we're used to the duct tape will fix everything. So there was a problem with one of the key things for analysis here is when my team couldn't find the problem, my brother and I knew it was either up in an attic where they didn't want to spend time, or they went downstairs in the basement or crawl space where they didn't want to spend any time. So I was trying to figure out why they couldn't get air, and I'm crawling along the crawl space with a flashlight in my mouth, and I come to a section that's this big apart. It's not that big apart. It's supposed to be ductwork, but he didn't decide the ductwork, so he took a cardboard box. He just cut the 2 ends of it into this giant. I don't know if I'm describing it. Picture it again. The ductwork is round. And
the
then there's a
cardboard box is
cardboard box
rectangle.
trying to gap this whole thing that he thought, of course, he never mentioned that to me. And he also never told anybody else that this is what he had done. But that was one of my favorite DIY stories. So then
But the duct tape sealed all the gaps, didn't it?
Duct
Yeah.
tape.
Should work like a champ.
Like a
work like a
champ.
champ. And cardboard boxes that are square rectangle for a span like that. No problem with stalling out the air.
Yeah, it didn't capture everything and make a vacuum. Or a
Yeah,
rock.
no, not a great job.
I love it. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
and also when it gets wet, it's another good thing. But that was and the reason I think it was the location, because if you see what I'm doing, I'm crawling on my hands and knees with a flashlight in my mouth, and then trying to figure out why has everybody missed this. And I finally realized, yeah, that's why they missed it.
That's awesome. Al, this has been great, man. We thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wealth of knowledge and a great career at everything you've done in your history. And I really appreciate it. It's been a great episode. If you guys didn't learn something, man, that's on you. Get in your truck, go back, re-listen to this thing. Go back and check these episodes back out with Ellen Rohr. But you got to go back and re-listen to this one, man, because there's gold nuggets like all over the place. Mm-hmm. You can implement those today. Get them going. Make it happen. Get up that mountain. Let's go get successful. We got to go.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Small Business Safari. Remember to keep that positive attitude, which will reflect in a higher altitude as you're out there making it happen in the wild world of small business ownership. Until next time, go make it a great day, Adventure Team.